Hello, my name is Gary. My friends call me Gur, and this is Gur's Place. I've been wanting to do a follow-up video to my camping trip, and so this is it. Basically, I wanted to talk about my sleep system. That's why I went camping, was to test out my cold weather sleep system. So I wanted to tell you how that went, and particularly, I wanted to do a review on my quilt, on the quilt that I used. But first of all, let me get into what my base layer was. I've gone on camping trips in warmer weather, and I just had, I had to use three or four layers to stay warm, even in 40-degree weather. On this particular camping trip, my base layer at night was a pair of men's tights, actually, long underwear, one pair of wool socks, and a long sleeve shirt. And that was my base layer. That was it. And so all of the warmth that I got that night came from my sleep system. Now, I showed you this thermometer in the last video or one before. I hung this on the outside of the tent. Now, if you'll remember, if you watched the previous video, I told you it was going to get down to 27. Well, it did, and more or less. It got down to 24. When I got up the next morning, this little thermometer that I hung on the outside of the tent said 24 degrees. So it was the coldest weather that I have camped in as an adult. Now, in Boy Scouts, probably camped in colder weather than that. I remember one particularly frigid camping trip in Bradford Woods here in Indiana. Oh, it was cold. But this was the coldest weather I have camped in as an adult. So let's dig into what I used as my sleep system. I showed this to you in the previous video, but let's just recap. First of all, I used a closed cell pad on the bottom, on the floor of the tent. Now, the reason I use this, threefold. One, it adds 2 R factors to the warmth, and so that's one reason. Another reason is if you invest in a good sleeping pad, it's going to cost you anywhere from $150 to maybe even $300. This protects your sleeping pad from getting punctures from whatever may be on the floor of the tent or under the floor of the tent. So a very good investment. This one is from Walmart. It was half the price of the Thermarest, and it's essentially the same thing. So save yourself some money. Get the Walmart version, or if you want to go to REI and buy the Thermarest, knock yourself out. Okay, the sleeping pad. If you can read that, the X-Ped Ultra. It has an R factor of 3, and so when I inflated this pad and laid it on top of the closed cell pad, that gave me a total of an R factor of 5. Now, you may know or you may not, but if you don't, you should know that the R factors are additive. And so you can take the 3R of the X-Ped pad, add it to the 2R of the closed cell pad. You got an R factor of 5, will get you down to sub-zero, and that was plenty warm for me. And also, Sea to Summit pillow. Unfortunately, I lost the bag that it goes in, but this is a blow-up pillow, and it did very well. It did not slip around. It's got a kind of a textured surface here, and so with that you can either use that for laying your head on, or for laying on top of the sleeping pad. It did not slide around, and it was really quite comfortable. So Sea to Summit, hold that close so you can read it. Sea to Summit pillow, very good. Just wish I hadn't lost the bag that it goes in. But the key to my sleep system, I stayed warm. I stayed warm. Even though it got down to 24 degrees, I stayed very warm, and I'm very, very happy with the results. So again, I showed you what went on the bottom of the tent. That gave me insulation from the ground. And then I slept under. Wait a minute, let me first of all hold this up. This is the size of the stuff bag that my quilt packs in. And let me just read you a few statistics on this quilt. It weighs 1.76 pounds. For those of you who are into ounces, 28.2 ounces, or if you're into grams, that's 800 grams. Very light, very light. My tent weighs 19 ounces, and my backpack weighs 19 ounces. So my backpack, my big three, my backpack, my shelter, and my sleeping quilt are very light, and so that's one of the reasons I was able to get down to a base weight of 11.3 pounds. So let's open this up, and I really the big reason for this video is I want to do a review of this quilt. So let's start pulling it out of the bag, and there's more. And so all of that was able to go down inside of that stuff bag. Now, again, I stayed extremely warm. This is a Enlightened equipment, Revelation 10-degree quilt, down quilt. Stayed very warm. Now this version of the quilt has a zippered foot box. Now you can get it with a sewn foot box. I chose the zippered because when it's warmer, you don't need a foot box. You can open this completely up and spread it out flat. Now, one thing that did happen, and long about 5 o'clock in the morning, and so it was well into the 20s that morning, my feet that had been toasty warm all night, long about 5 o'clock, I felt them getting a little chilled. Well, one thing that I forgot to do was to close the end of the foot box, and so some cold air was getting in. And it's not that difficult to close the air of the foot box. You have a drawstring, and so let me pull these stops down so that there, and then pull this one down. And so you can close up the end of the foot box, and so no air is going to get in. I just forgot to do that. So when my feet got cold at 5 o'clock in the morning, I said, you know what? I didn't close the foot box. So I reached down to the end of the quilt, closed that, restored the warmth. Very warm. I learned another thing about the quilt, and this may apply to sleeping bags too, particularly if it's down. again, along about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, when it was getting very chilly, I crawled all the way down inside of the quilt, covering my head so I would stay warm, and that was a mistake. It was a mistake because my head is under the quilt. I'm still breathing, right? I'm breathing out 98.6 degree air that has a ton of moisture in it. Well, where's that air going to go? Well, it's going to go through the quilt and out the top. And up here on top, it's going to meet 24 degrees. What happens? Well, the moisture condenses out. And so the top of my quilt was quite damp just from me breathing. So, solution to that problem. At REI, they have these hoods. And you can get similar ones from Enlightened equipment and other manufacturers. This one is made out of a synthetic material. You can get them that are also down filled. Well, what does the hood do for you? Well, quite simply, and I hope you can still hear me, the hood goes over your head and keeps you nice and warm without the need of you covering your head with your quilt. And so this will in the future be part of my cold weather sleeping gear. Again, like I said, this was $25. It was marked down from $35. Every once in a while, you do hit some good deals at REI. If you are a co-op member, you get 10% off on all of your purchases. So that, and then each year you get a dividend check from them. And so it works out very, very nicely to be a member of the REI co-op. That's my sleep system, cold weather sleep system. Of course, now it's getting to be spring, and that's fine. The thing is, I now know that I can sleep comfortably in temperatures, approaching 20 degrees. If it's colder than 20 degrees, I'm not going camping. That's not who I am. But down to 20 degrees, pretty good. So I hope this video helps. Again, I just can't say enough good things about the Enlightened equipment Revelation quilt. If you're looking for a quilt, I just highly recommend this one. Okay, that's my wrap up on this camping trip. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you on the next.